much about Space Force, but I bet there's a lot there and a lot there that we need to learn in the context of what is going on in the entire world. So here to discuss that with me, I am so honored to have retired United States Air Force Lieutenant General Kwast. Welcome
Thank you.
to the Candace Owens Show.
Thank you very much, and call me Steve, please.
I can call you Steve. Okay,
of course,
great.
If I can call you Candace.
You certainly can.
The reason the Space Force is so important and is because whenever a civilization is moving into a new place, there is always a struggle for the resources and for the opportunity that new space provides. For example, when we went out west, we went out with covered wagons. But there was also the cavalry that protected those covered wagons, because if not, then it would be a clash that would kill our people and put them at risk. Anytime you move into a new marketplace, pirates, thieves, and thugs will come along, because people are people and we're imperfect, and evil will be there, and somebody will be selfish, they will not respect another human being, and they will do things that are not consistent with our values of rule of law. Space is the same way. For example, I'll just use the moon as an example. Right now, it's as if there is a continent 3 times the size of Africa, and nobody is out there. Nobody. And China is building a fleet of ships going to that continent to mine the resources and to develop and to bring all of that wealth and prosperity back to China. And we are not. The Space Force is a recognition that this is something that we need to be a part of.
You know, one minute you're in power, the next minute you're not, right?
Yeah.
And China is definitely a threat in terms of the way that they are raising their students. They are learning. I saw a video of a kid doing things on a calculator. He must have been 5 years old. The way that he was computing math, I was scared looking at him. I was going, we cannot compete with that. If this is the way that their kindergartens and first graders are learning to do math, our country can't compete with that.
That's right.
And now you're saying that they're jumping on the Space Force. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, right. Anybody that studies China will see that they have already built a Space Force. But they've done something else that gives them a competitive advantage, and that is not only have they built the Space Force and organized around this single purpose, they have made it their national vision to dominate the economy of space in order to dominate the economy of the 21st century. And we'll talk about how they are planning on doing that, because they are unapologetic about talking about it. But the other key factor is they don't have a republic like we do, where we rightfully argue over how the money will be spent, and we have political parties that make sure that best ideas make it through the crucible of controversy and fire before the money comes out. In China, the Communist Party owns these companies, and they fuel them, and they fund them, they subsidize them in a way that allows them to compete globally in a way our companies can't. So there's a predatory behavior to this as well, but they are organized to dominate the economy of space, and we are not. The Space Force is the first thing we've done to actually be serious about saying we want a guardian capability to protect American rule of law, the rights of people who put hard work in. If there's somebody that tries to steal it away, somebody will hold them accountable. So this is the first step into this journey. But you're right. The reason people scoff at this and laugh about it, and it's ironic, like you said, is because they don't understand what is about to happen. It would be like you were sitting here in 1900, okay? The airplane has not been invented yet. You know, the Wright brothers in Dayton, Ohio had not yet invented it. It's 3 years away. And most people in America are lighting their homes with candles. They're heating them with wood, burning in the fireplace, and there's no electricity. And they use a horse to get around, and it's mostly trails. There's really no roads. And I sit here with you in 1900 and tell you, within 100 years, there will be roads that go everywhere. There will be 2 cars in every garage. There will be a man will have been on the moon already this many years ago, 70 years ago, 50 years ago, for the man on the moon, World War II and the planes, and electricity in every home. And we fly everywhere that we want to get to. You would have thought I was crazy. The acceleration of all these technologies, what is coming to our shore from an infrastructure in space, is going to make that look like child's play. It's going to happen so fast as it comes forward. And again, most people have a hard time seeing something that they have never seen before. Just like the model of electricity being delivered the way it is, that was Edison and Tesla that really gave us this methodology that is very expensive, very wasteful, and very and pollutes. Yet we all live and assume that our great-grandchildren will have to plug their cell phone into the wall just like we do, and it just doesn't have to be that way. And we'll talk about how space can build an infrastructure to do that.
Let me ask you a question. Let's say the world moves as quickly technologically as it has been. So in the next 100 years, the world is being largely driven by what's happening out in space. Is it fair to say that if we don't get in this, if space does become dominated by China, if they dominate space, then they dominate the world?
Oh, yeah. There's no question about it.
There's no question. There's no being a world power, but we're not playing in space.
Right. And the subtlety here is that we get trapped in the paradigms of the past. So right now, when people think about space, and the way we've done space since 1960 is we just fall around the Earth, and you think of a satellite command. And so it's just falling around the Earth, bringing GPS and timing and weather satellites and pictures from space so that you can see every part of planet Earth. That's all fine and good, but that's a paradigm we're stuck in. What China is looking to is the economy of space outside of that gravity well, outside of orbits, where you're maneuvering between the Earth and the Moon and Mars. And you have an infrastructure. It would be like us building the Eisenhower interstate system in order to allow towns to thrive in little economies all over. Imagine our country without railroads or roads. Those railroads and roads make us vibrant economically. China is building those roads and railroads into space. And if we aren't there with them, they will benefit from the resources on the moon, on asteroids, and the sun as they build out capability to receive that sun energy and modify it into safe radio waves that can be absorbed into devices and power anything in cislunar space. The cislunar space means between the Earth and the Moon and beyond. So this is where they're going. And if we don't, they will be able to do things. They will be able to weaponize information and energy because of what they can do with a network in space. They will be able to dominate transportation because they will have the transportation capability to get this infrastructure in space that can take anybody on planet Earth. You could get into a spacecraft. Elon Musk is building this right now in Brownsville, Texas. Get on a spacecraft and be in Singapore in 39 minutes. Walk around, go shopping, and be home for dinner.
Wow.
Back in Brownsville. This is like telling somebody that an airplane could take them from New York to LA in 4 hours, and it usually takes 4 weeks in a rickety old horse-drawn carriage.
I think one thing that makes me feel optimistic is that if we do get in this race and we do realize the importance of this, America is great because of our free market mentality, right?
That's right.
Because we normally encourage competition, and that's what makes entrepreneurs want to go at it and say, I want to race and do the best. And China does not have that.
They don't.
China has never had that, So
Right.
their people are not encouraged to want to help, assist the government and come up with all of these great technologies. They're usually trying to get out of there where their knowledge will be better valued and they'll live a better life and their families will live a better life. It's just about us communicating the importance of this race, if you will.
That's true, but we have to be careful of this because I'll take the telecommunication journey over the last 20 years. Back in 2001, China didn't really have a telecommunication internal market. And so they asked Lucent Technologies, Motorola, and Nortel to come in and build their telecommunication market. And those companies were excited. There's a story of two business people from Motorola in Hong Kong in 1998 cheering each other that, hey, this is going to be great. China has asked us to come in. They've made the environment beneficial to our company, and we're going to have access to this billion-plus marketplace. We're going to be rich beyond our wildest dreams. Here's to that. All we have to do is give China our intellectual property and proprietary information. 6 years later, they were bankrupt. Why? Well, Huawei didn't exist back then, but Huawei was built out of the carcasses of Lucent Technology, Motorola, and Nortel. Why? Because China recognized they would not be more innovative than the American culture, where we respect each other enough and we're humble enough to listen and learn, and that diversity of thought creates innovation at speeds that are just mind-boggling. They recognized they didn't have that in their cultural DNA. So their method was steal, then duplicate, and then flood the markets. So they did that, and that's why they dominate 5G and why America has no good answer.
I always say that with my generation, I think that we really sped things up. We were definitely the catalyst to all of this crazy leftist, who cares, what are you crying about, bathroom signs, you overprivileged brats, I always say.
Yeah.
And I think we catalyzed that, and I say what my generation is suffering from is peace. Like, people don't know how to just be peaceful and be content and go, wow, everything's kind of okay.
That's right.
And that's human nature.
It is.
You know, there's human beings want to triumph, right? They want to be a generation that we want to say we ended World War II, and or you know, we sent our boys over in Vietnam War. We were the people that did this. You know, we ended that war. Yeah. And we can't do that as millennials. We're sort of like, we didn't really do anything, so why don't we just, ruin our own country and pretend that, we put up bathroom signs and
so this is why I'm so excited to be here, because they can do this, and I'll describe it. It's in a space that can do this. Americans today do not realize that technology right now, sitting on the table of engineering benches out there, could be put together in a way where this generation could say, we solved world hunger. We eliminated pollution that is toxic to the human race. We have provided abundant energy and clean water to anybody on planet Earth with no need for rivers, aquifers, or pipes. These are statements that most people will say, oh, that's 100 years from now, if ever. And it's just not true. And we're going to talk about this because space is a unique geography that can do things in a networked way to reach every human being and uplift the condition of people in suffering. And it can bring the values of America of peace and respect for human beings and liberty and equality, the things that are so precious. And we as a nation can actually stake a vision that's big enough for America, big enough so we stop squabbling with one another over bathrooms and start championing things that are meaningful to God and man.